Welcome. On today's tutorial, we're going to talk about setting up and arranging a drum set, some cymbals, and using some practice pads. We're going to start with our bass drum. Now, on both sides of the bass drum, you're going to have a bass drum spur, and that we need to set out. At the end of the spur, you should have a rubber tip, and if you want to, you can screw that back up. Give that a few twists. Nice loud obnoxious noise there. And that is going to allow a point to stick out. That little spur is going to make it so when you're on carpeting, your bass drum doesn't slide on you. It's best to be setting up your drum set on carpeting, not wood or vinyl or any slippery flooring. Once you open that up, extend that out, you're going to have one on the other side. Your bass drum is now set up. Next thing that you're going to do with your bass drum, you're going to take your bass drum pedal and attach it to the bass drum. Now, the bottom, you'll notice there's a little lip here, and another section right here, and then another lip right here. And that is going to go around the bass drum hoop on the bottom of the bass drum. There should be a thumb screw there to help tighten that down. A lot of times when you put this on, you notice that once you put it on, the heel of the bass drum pedal might be sticking up a little bit. But once you tighten that thumb screw down, the heel of the bass drum should be pretty solid on the floor. All right? After you have that, we can move to the drum throne. Now, this drum throne happens to have a memory lock right here, which is very helpful. Helps so you don't slip down. Earlier on, when I was sitting on it, it kind of slipped down on me. So you want to make sure you can take a drum key, tighten that up, make sure that that is nice and solid. Once you put the top of your drum throne on, you should be ready to go. Now, I always like to adjust my drum throne so that my leg is pretty close to a 90-degree angle. I don't want to be sitting too high or sitting too low. Once I have that, I like to have my feet so that they are shoulder width apart pretty much, or it's going to be a little bit more than that, just kind of comfortable. You don't want them too far apart or too close together. Where my left foot is, that's where I'm going to put my hi-hat stand. So, here's my hi-hat stand here. And notice that the pedal is not attached. You're going to squeeze these two metal bars, and they're going to go right into the two holes on the very bottom of the hi-hat. When I transport my hi-hat, I also like to have the top of it out a little ways so not too much of the rod is sticking out, so that way it doesn't get bent. I do have a memory lock here as well, and so that's going to slide down there, and that way I know exactly where to put my hi-hat. All right, you can still adjust it later, but we'll start there. I open up the tripod base of the hi-hat. I always like to have this part of the hi-hat so it's up just a tiny bit. I don't want that setting on the ground because then it makes a really kind of a teetery hi-hat. If you have problems with your hi-hat moving forward, a lot of them will have some screws that you can turn down, and they will kind of suck into the carpet and make it so that the hi-hat stand does not move away on you. Once you're done with that, again, we got both my feet so that they're comfortable as I'm sitting here. Okay? We're going to move to the snare drum stand. And again, let me bring this up here so that way you can see a little bit better. The snare drum stand, once again, I have a memory lock down here. I really like that because then when I open it, it goes right to the same spot that I had it before. Love that feature. Actually, that comes from Tama as well. They put that on there beforehand. So then you have your basket, and we'll open that up here. So I'm going to place that in between my two pedals. I open up that basket, and you're going to notice Tama does something a little bit different. I don't know if you can see this from this angle, but the three support bars are not symmetrical. One is offset, and that actually helps. So that way, whenever you're putting your snare drum on, that all these lugs here, they don't end up landing on one of those support bars. Very ingenious thing that Tama did. I kind of wish everybody did that. Once you have that on there, you're going to tighten it up down here, and that's going to adjust your snare drum. And then now I've got my bass drum, hi-hat, and my snare drum right in front of me, nice and comfortable. After that, almost everybody has this. You've got your tom holder, and they always supply you with a memory lock right here. So that way when you place your tom holder into the bass drum mount, it goes back in the same spot that it was before. This kit has 2 rack toms, has a 10 and a 12. What we're going to do is we're going to put those on there. Again, Tama supplies a nice memory lock so it remembers where I did it from before. And then the 12, going to do the same thing with this. Here's your memory lock. Putting that on there, tightening the thumb screw, and now my 2 toms are ready to go. Now, as far as for how you want to adjust them, the height and the angle, I would just recommend that right here that you have a little bit of space so that way your toms are not setting on your drum. Normally I will adjust my 12, and then the 10 has to go up a little bit higher. Obviously it could go lower, but then going from the 10 to the 12 when you're playing is going to be a little bit weird. So the 10, I always put up that a little bit higher. There are other great ideas as far as setting up, but this is kind of a general starting point. Now, for the floor toms, this one happens to have 2. You probably have noticed, you're like, oh, there's 2 floor toms. Most of the time, you will only have 1 floor tom. In this case, we have 2. So, if I have 2, I'm one of these guys who, if you set up and tear down a lot, I mark my equipment. So, for example, the 14-inch floor tom has, the legs have white tape on them, the 16-inch does not. So that way I can at least tell which one belongs to the 14, which one the 16. And then plus, I put a little tape on there, which I'm sure you can't see, and it says 14A. And then on the bottom of the drum itself, I've actually put A, B, and C. So I always put them in because once again, you can get some memory locks for these. And then once you put them in, they are set up and ready to go. Once you tighten down the thumb screws, turn that over. I always set it so that the oddball is kind of out there, right? So I have the 2 legs are facing me, and the single leg is out on the other side. And I will do the same thing with the 16-inch. Again, I've already set that together, all right? So once you have that, this is your basic setup that we're going to have for the drum set. So again, on our next one, we're going to talk about the cymbals. Here we have the drum set. This is Mr. Stockert. If you have any questions, go ahead and submit them on my website. Thank you.